Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. This is the 23rd meeting of the 146th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. Our video is not working perfectly tonight. Some of our council members cannot be seen on the screen, but we'll try and carry on and hopefully you can hear what's happening tonight. So, first of all, members, are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. First item, motion that reads that the minutes of the meetings held on June 8th, 2026 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council will now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole to deal with business from 4 committees. The first item tonight, final progress report, St. Thomas Elgin 10-year housing and homelessness plan 2014 to 2024. Motion that reads that report SESS 1126 relating to the final progress report, St. Thomas Elgin 10-year housing and homelessness plan 2014 to 2024 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark, and then Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just wondering on the stats on the inn. It mentions that 241 individuals used the inn, and 96 of those people were 10 nights or less. So the other 144, when you work out that average, it's almost 99.7 number of nights. And I'm just wondering, since we have a names list, have we been able to identify those people? And that's still a large gap in terms of it's an average. So I'm just wondering what kind of progress we're making with the most needy, who still, in a sense, that's their home. Maybe for some of them it could be nightly or almost every other night.
Ms. Nielsen.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Clark. I really appreciate you looking closely at that data. So it's helpful probably to point out that it very much is an average that swayed on the lighter usage that you've noted already, where it's a smaller population of people that are staying for less than 3 to 10 nights. It's also heavily weighted by the opposite, which also is a small population of people that you're correct. For a number of reasons, they have been unable to successfully transition from the shelter into supportive housing because of their very complex needs. As a result, it creates that average that would make it appear like the majority of folks who use the shelter are staying for excessively long periods of time, when in fact, it's probably more like 30 to 40 nights for the average shelter user. On average, we know that the guests at the shelter are staying between 13 to 16 nights per month. And again, that is very much an average that's heavily weighted by other extremes of the population.
Go ahead.
In our model, kind of since further in the report, it talks about the lofts, and then it talks about Queen Street, and we are in the works of Balaclava, again, with supportive housing, but maybe not as much support. So I'm just wondering how that model is working. Are we seeing people, to me, it's kind of like a graduation where you leave the lofts with the intensive support and hopefully get to Queen Street or another location. Are we seeing that happening, or are we getting bogged down at some stage? So I'm just wondering what Balaclava Street, for example, might look like, or what the needs might be there in terms of support.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you through Your Worship to Councillor Clark. Yes, our practice is that when units at the station become available, often for good reasons where people are graduating on either to independent living or to less support, so we prioritize tenancy selections from Railway City Lofts. So when people at Railway City Lofts have stabilized and are ready for also less intensive supports, they would be the first group that we would look at in terms of filling the units at the station. Really appreciate your question about Balaclava. Balaclava, we've just recently done a full analysis of people on our by name list based on their acuity. We're working off of that aggregate data to strategically plan with Indwell for the Balaclava project and other projects so that we can create movement across the system to provide people with the supports that match their current level of need and to create that movement and that fluidity that we need across the housing sector in general to help get us to that place of creating housing stability for all.
Great. Councillor Herbert, you're next, followed by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Danielle. It's a very detailed report. Lots of, obviously, some hard work goes into these things to give us the correct information. I noticed in the report that Council has approved the 10-year housing and homeless plan, but the ministry has yet to approve it. Is there a concern that you're not going to get what we're asking for? And if there is, what would happen if we didn't get what you wanted?
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Through your worship to Council, at this point, there are no concerns for us to be aware of or preparing for. The ministry, in its regulations and its direction to us, gave itself 90 days to complete a review period. So unfortunately, we're at the mercy of that. I anticipate that we will hopefully hear from them in September and receive any direction that they may have. I anticipate, and maybe I'm biased, that it's an excellent report and that it should be received well by our provincial partners.
I'll go to Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I love the way the whole report's put together, but you know, when you look at the strategic directions like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I know I've talked about this before because you look at strategic 1 and you see all the work that we've done, and that's where we do a lot of talking, and a lot of people sometimes think maybe we spend too much time on that, but at the end of the day, they all 4 directions come together. And you know, when I look at strategic direction number 2 and 379 low-income households to prevent homelessness. So it's not just about getting people off the streets, it's keeping people from being on the streets. So I continue to talk about strategic direction number 2, and I think that's something that we should maybe hopefully promote a little bit more of too, like, you know, keeping people in their home, helping with home repair and things like that. It's not just about the good work that we're doing in strategic number 1, but there is 2, 3, and 4 that follow up, and it's all part of the whole plan to continue to be successful. But yeah, thanks a lot. And I want to just keep letting people know that it's, you know, more than just one area that we're focusing on.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Baldwin Sands, do I have you back? Got it now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
So far, yes.
It was about the partnerships and the volunteers. I was hoping that we could expand a little bit upon that because the community involvement is really strategic to making sure we are successful with this program. I was hoping Danielle could talk a little bit more about it, please.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin Sands. Through your worship to Council, I'm very happy to speak about the partnerships and the volunteers that make this work possible. It would in fact be impossible without them. Part of what makes St. Thomas so successful is that all of our partners, traditional and non-traditional partners, see themselves as part of the solutions, and it allows us to make headway and move the dial towards housing stability for all in a way that I have yet to see in other communities, quite frankly. So again, to Councillor Baldwin Sands' point, it wouldn't be possible without our partners and our volunteers.
Super.
Thank
Further
you.
questions? Sorry,
No,
go ahead, Councillor Baldwin Sands. You had a second one.
Thank you very much. The other was on the number, the absolute number of built housing that we've been able to accomplish over this period of time. I was again asking from the director for more input to that number. She said about how our community has moved so far forward and there has been no other community that has been able to do that. I talked a little bit about setting a bar so incredibly high, and we've established such a great pace. I was hoping that the director could talk, interim director could talk a little bit about that, please.
Please.
Sure. Thank you again for the question and through your worship. So you're correct, Councillor Baldwin-Sands. We have had successes in ways that maybe outpace other communities in their opportunity to land those outcomes, certainly not from their efforts or desire to do so. But again, we've made sustainable investments here in St. Thomas with an attitude of the answer is yes. Now, what is your question? We've worked collaboratively with nonprofit developers and providers, as well as for-profit developers and providers. And that has helped us certainly move the dial in the way that the numbers are showing us in this report.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a couple comments. Having been in a family where a loved one has been supported in a homelessness journey, Strategic Direction 2, I want to point out, just Councillor Kohler, this one's really hard because a lot of times you don't know when there's a problem until it's a big problem. So when in the privacy of a dwelling, you don't know what's happening really, and the agency doesn't know what's happening until something, when the poop hits the fan, and all of a sudden it becomes very public. So, I mean, how do we, my rhetorical question is for the system is how do we create something so that family friends would know who to call to say, look, this thing's going downhill in a hurry. What do we do now? So that's just a rhetorical question to say that's a challenge that I want to recognize with Strategic Direction 2 that will require a lot more resources, organization, everything else. And the other thing I just want to say is, again, the numbers from the inn, from my family members' experience, like they may be at the inn for 3 nights, then gone for a week, then there for 4 nights, then gone for a month, then there for 8 nights in a row. So that number can be very fragmented. And so it's very hard to help those people because they're not around long enough to establish a rapport, right? And then they're gone, then they're back. So again, I don't think, I think for my colleagues here, those numbers, it's not like somebody might be there for 80 straight nights. Like it can be very fragmented. And it's very hard to keep track of where they are. And then they just are back, but they might come back at midnight one night. They're there overnight, gone the next day, gone for another 4 days. So I just want to recognize the challenges that the system has to responding to people who are not there on a consistent basis. So that's just my comments. Thank you, Your Worship.
Great. Any comment to that, Danielle?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for the comments, Councillor Wookie. You're right. I think that when we are through what we've been referencing for years now as reaching that functional end to homelessness, it's simply the start of a new focus. And that is really at looking at all the cracks that exist in many systems that were not designed to prevent occurrences of homelessness from happening. So really, we're just getting started. And I know folks are working hard and they may be a little exhausted, but we're actually just getting started. And so I really appreciate those comments and the content around broken stays at shelter. That data is difficult to look at from sort of those averages, as Councillor Clark pointed out earlier, because each situation is entirely unique to what's happening for that person at that point in their lives.
Right. Further questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Your Worship, the next item is a report for Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative 2026-27 Investment Plan. Motion that reads that report SESS 1226 relating to the Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative 2026-27 Investment Plan be received for information, and further that Council approve the COCHI OPHI 2026-27 Investment Plan, which outlines the recommended spending under the permitted uses of funding in the total amount of $1,524,500 in provincial COCHI-OPHI funding for 2026-2027. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Danielle, once again, great report. I thought all your numbers were pretty consistent, except when I got down to the OPHI operating, in the 24-25, we approved 188, and 25-26 approved 154, and then all of a sudden, 26, we dropped down to 67. I might be able to guess why that happened, but I would prefer for you to tell me why we're dropping like that. So thank you.
Chancellor?
Thank you, through your worship, to council. Greatly appreciate the question and the opportunity to provide some clarification. So we do know from the province that OFI is subject to end over the next 3 years. And the direction has been that we compensate for that loss of funding through the Kochi portfolio, which so far has been showing that it's trending towards increases. So where we reduced funding in this part of operating for OFI, we have picked it up in operating for Kochi to ensure stability for the households that are being supported with that funding.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
Well, just a comment that when you look at inflation, the 100,000 gets eaten up pretty fast with inflation. And so when the province and the feds talk about, trying to help us with the homeless situation, which we all recognize is growing, I'm not sure how serious they really are.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Worship, next item relates to the Homelessness Prevention Program 2026-27 Investment Plan. Motion that reads that report SESS 1326 relating to the Homelessness Prevention Program 2026-27 Investment Plan be received for information. And further, that council approve the Homelessness Prevention Program 2026-27 Investment Plan provided in report SESS 1326, which outlines recommended spending by service categories of $2,527,500 in provincial funding for the period April 1, 2026 to March 31st, 2027. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
There's a number of different areas that in that report where we are able to assist families. And I'm just wondering whether or not we have the capacity or whether each year to meet new emergencies, or are we dealing with kind of the same clientele that they're in a situation and we need to help them year after year? Or I'm just wondering how people are coming on and off some of those supports.
Ms. Nielsen?
Thank you, and through your worship to Councillor Clark. So in some instances, we are assisting people or families over more than a period of a year or more than once over a period of a couple of years. In other instances, so for example, the Housing Stability Financial Assistance Program, it's intended to be one-time emergency financial assistance. And while we do see some folks who will come back through exceptional circumstances to access the program a second or third time, often it is their first occurrence of requiring that level of support. So we are we are in a position to be able to support new families or households that also require this type of financial investment.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. I basically have the same question about the emergency shelter. I mean, they're requesting 971, almost $1 million, and we only approved 600. Next year, we're only recommending 600. Why do they need the extra 400,000 and we're not providing it for that to help out the people at the emergency shelter?
Ms. Nielsen?
Thank you, through your worship to Councillor Herbert. Greatly appreciate the question. So in addition to this HPP funding allocation, we do have the municipal support that we provide to the inn to help reach that bracket between what we can give them in provincial funding and what their actual operating costs are. In addition to that, the inn has become more and more successful each year in its ability to leverage grants, bursaries, and fundraising opportunities, although they still operate under pretty tight financial restrictions on a month-over-month basis. Currently, the combination of funding sources is allowing them to reach their operating targets and keep their doors open.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just to follow up, with regards to staffing, do we have a lot of full-time staff working there plus volunteers, or is it just the director and assistant director and volunteers to keep that running 24/7? Thank you.
Thank you, and through your worship, it's a combination of both. So there is a leadership team as well as a full-time complement of caseworkers and shelter workers, but a substantial number of volunteers, and the financial impact that that has for the inn is extraordinary. I don't know that they would be able to operate the way they do, as lean as they do, if it weren't for all of the volunteers that commit their time there.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Worship, the next item is follow-up report, proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications, Harvest Square being blocks 103, 104 on Plan 11M 232. Motion that reads that report PD 3826 relating to follow-up report, proposed draft plan of subdivision 34T 26502 and associated zoning bylaw amendment applications for Harvest Square block 103, 104 as on Plan 11M 232 be received for information. Further, that council authorize staff to prepare a site-specific draft amendment to zoning bylaw 5088 to permit a residential development comprised of single detached dwellings, townhouse dwellings, and a high-density apartment block on lands which may be described as Block 103 and Block 104, Plan 11M 232, City of St. Thomas. And further, that council approve the draft plan of subdivision file number 34T 26502 for lands owned by Doug Terry Limited, subject to conditions, including the requirement for the owner to enter into a subdivision agreement for with the corporation of the City of St. Thomas with respect to the installation of municipal services and financial, environmental, administrative, and other matters related to the development of the plan. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. I appreciate the proponents talking about we want to have as little backlotting as we can. We have an issue coming forward later about fences, and we want to minimize backlotting for a lot of reasons. Secondly, I appreciate what the proponent is saying about the 5-story contributing towards a housing target. I also want to thank the neighbors for meeting with me one night, and some of the neighbors putting together the recommendations and the information that we received as a council. Although they are not professional planners, I thought what they provided was great to illustrate their concerns. For myself, yes, across the street's R3, but it's really R1, like it's single story directly across the street on Renaissance. For myself, I would love to see a 4-story building such as at Manor and Wellington. I think that for me, I'm more comfortable with a 4-story building fitting that lot as opposed to a 5-story building. So I'm usually in line with what DTL does. I think they do great work. I think this one is for me a close but no cigar. So I do not think I'll be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if the proponents had any further discussions with staff in terms of some of the ideas that the neighbors had with regard to moving the apartment building to a different location on the site. Did we have any further discussions, or was that just, kind of a done deal as far as the developer was concerned? Because I thought the neighborhood had some good ideas of moving that over to the stormwater pond and turning it sideways.
So through your worship, we shared the neighborhood comments with the proponent. The proponent, did prepare the response letter. Some of the comments that had been shared by the neighbors were similar to some of the suggestions provided by city staff. The proponent ultimately chose not to change the design of their proposal, but they have demonstrated, in the opinion of planning staff, that their proposal does conform to the policies of the official plan. There are, opportunities for improvement, and we'll be looking at that through the official plan update process. But they did, in the opinion of staff, meet the official plan policies for compatibility.
Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have some concerns with the development myself too, but at the end of the day, when you look at it, like I think Councillor Clark, the last meeting, had suggested and just mentioned it again too about locating the building along the stormwater pond. I think that'd be a great idea there too, but you can see the configuration that you're going to end up losing units out of that. I think the neighborhood put together a great proposal here. Actually, that's what I'm looking at to look at the whole thing, because it includes everything that's in it and put up some pretty good suggestions. Unfortunately, some of the suggestions just don't fill the void on how many units that we can get there. And we all know that that's one of the things that we need in St. Thomas is more housing, and unfortunately the layout that they have here increases that, and without the willingness for them to make any changes, I see if we do vote this down, we're just going to OMB, but we're voting against exactly what we need. This unfortunately fits the bill on everything. It ticks off every box that's there. And like, I want to support the neighborhood. They've done a great job here, but at the end of the day, we need housing. I remember when my family first moved to St. Thomas and we were over on the north end, Confederation, Warren and Crescent, beautiful new neighborhood. Down the road, all of a sudden they want to build a 10-story high rise there. Same type of thing, property value is going to drop, everything's going to go down, people are going to be looking in the backyard. At the end of the day, I think the houses in that area now are selling for almost 300 times what they were purchased for when we moved in. And you drive down Confederation and that's part of the landscape now and part of the residential area. But at the end of the day, I guess my question is to the city manager, if we vote this down, how much money do we end up tending to lose, and how much time do we delay the whole project by going to the LPAT just to have them tell us once again that we're going to be forced to let it happen?
City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, as Councillor Kohler has noted, since this proposal has been identified as complying with the city's official plan policies and zoning bylaw, it is unlikely to be successful at LPAT or at the Ontario Land Tribunal. And so the legal costs would be significant, I would think in the range of $50,000 to $100,000, and would likely take in the realm of 6 months to a year for resolution.
Thanks, Your Worship. If I can, just based on that right there, I can't, with all good conscience, vote against this and continue to spend taxpayers' money fighting for something that we absolutely need as a community. So that's why I'll be supporting this. I wish that we could make some changes. I wish we could have the entrance of that road line up with Coulter somehow, because I see that's going to be an issue. But at the end of the day, to vote no on this and then to just see taxpayers' money thrown after another unsuccessful battle, I just can't do that. So I will be supporting this, and I just want to thank the neighborhood for putting together a real thoughtful presentation here, and gave some food for thought to the proponent to hopefully make some changes, but unfortunately they're unwilling to bend. But at the end of the day, St. Thomas needs housing. Provincial government knows we need housing, and they're just going to be moving forward. And to delay it's probably irresponsible for us to do that, especially spending taxpayers' money to fight it.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Worship. Well, this is one of these tough calls for council. I took the time yesterday to send a response off to a lady, and actually it was the wrong person to respond to. It was a gentleman responded to me, and in my response back to him, I suggested, did he read the comments that the builder had made about all the questions they had? And we need more housing. I don't think there's any question. I took the time to drive around today to have a look at the big open lot and the pond. And I come in and spent a half hour with our manager, Michelle, and had quite a discussion with her on where we should be going with this. I know in the past 3 or 4 years, we have fought a lot of these areas. And in the end, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and we've lost because it goes to the appeal board in Toronto. And according to our planning department, the builder meets all the requirements on where it should be built. So I know Councilor Wuki suggested 4 levels instead of 5. If that would make a difference, I'd be happy to support 4 levels. And but that would be up to the builder to make that decision if he wants to do 4 instead of 5. So it's a tough call. I mean, do we want to spend the taxpayers' money and spend hundreds of thousands, and in the end we lose? Because we've been told 3 or 4 times we've lost because they meet all the requirements that are required by the planning department. So it's a tough call here. I'd be happy, as Councilor Wookie said, maybe the builder might look at 4 levels, if that would make a difference for the group. I think anytime you have over 250, 300 signatures, in good conscience, we have to take a look at it and try and listen to some of their concerns. So I don't know if we have to, do we have to vote tonight to make a decision, or can it be deferred back to the builder to see if he'd be interested in going from 5 to 4? Don't know if that's a possibility or not, but anyway, it's a tough call. So just my comments. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
Thank you. I agree with the comments that are here. It's sort of one of these things, darned if you do and darned if you don't. These folks bought a house in the area expecting one thing, and now we're going to get another thing. The same thing happened down on Feathers Crossing in Miller's Pond, where people bought a house thinking that there's going to be a school across the street. And guess what? There's not going to be a school across the street because we need housing. Same thing is happening here. The original thought when people bought a house in this location is we were going to have some commercial aspect to this. And then the traffic at Renaissance and Elm Street is a major concern, because I always prided myself when I was out showing people around St. Thomas that we were going to get from the north end of town to the south end of town in 6 minutes, but it probably takes more than 6 minutes to get out of this intersection. But those are things that we're trying to build subdivisions that are houses, and we're forgetting about the walkability of our subdivisions. How far do you have to go to get a bag of milk? You got to get in your car. You've got to go to the mall. You got to go to a convenience store that is a long ways away. And I really think we need to talk a little bit more about subdivisions and what a subdivision actually is. It needs to have commercial aspect. It needs to have better traffic flow. And as far as voting this down and going to the Ontario Land Tribunal and like has been mentioned, wasting a whole bunch of our taxpayers' money, I think we need to carry on with this project the way it is then. Thank you.
Councillor Baldwin Sands, I see your hand.
Thank you. Councillor Herbert's comments about requesting a deferral, because I did read thoroughly and did visit the site again on Sunday, and it was my hope that there would be some budge by the proponent on some of the items that the neighborhood was asking to do. So if Councillor Herbert is willing to request a deferral, I would second that motion and have a second look by the proponent to some of these requests that are being asked by the residents of the area, because I believe some of them are very doable and some of them are can be done with a very short order. So hopefully we can consider deferring this at least until the July meeting, so that the proponent has an opportunity to listen to what the people in the neighborhood are doing and see if there's any tweaking that can be done for this area of development.
Thank you. City Manager?
Sure. Through your worship, I would just like to remind council that there is prescribed timelines in the Planning Act for making a decision. So I'm just going to ask our manager of planning to speak to that as to when a decision needs to be reached.
So through your worship, the deadline has actually passed. The application was declared complete on February the 11th. So 90 days from February the 11th would be approximately May the 11th. So, and then it's 120 days for the plan of subdivision application, and that 120 days passed on June the 11th.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, then on the report, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item tonight deals with railway lands, area land use planning process, secondary plan, revised terms of reference. Motion that reads that report PD 3626 relating to railway lands area land use planning process secondary plan, revised term of reference be received for information. And further, that the revised terms of reference for the railway lands area land use planning process secondary plan be approved. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm all for a process that speeds things up and allows less red tape, but I'd just like someone to kind of walk us through what we're actually proposing here. Because I'm not sure, just similar to the project that we just talked about, where if it meets all kinds of different provincial and city plans, what we're changing here in terms of, the plan in the long run. So for example, we only own a couple small pieces of property ourselves. Everybody else, the landowners, if they choose to do whatever they want with their property, does this plan somehow force them to change maybe their future ideas? Or I'm just wondering what we will end up with in terms of, a model. So we're looking for a preferred plan. We're looking for certain things, but can we hold the owners of those properties to our proposed plan?
Brandon, did you want to maybe tell us the differences about where we were and where we are now?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, with the planning department, we are looking at moving forward with a city-led process, which would be appropriate public process to do this type of secondary planning, master planning work. What we're looking at doing is it would put a comprehensive plan in place for the future redevelopment of this area and what to conserve and what new land use or development permissions would be allowed for these lands. It's a plan basically over the next 20 or 25 years. So right now, there may be some properties that do allow development. Some of these areas right now might be zoned or designated where it allows, let's say, auto-oriented uses. There may be vacant lands in this area that haven't developed for many, many years. And by the city moving forward with this plan, it provides some kind of incentive. We might be looking at, changing the designations to allow for mixed use, to allow for residential or different densities, basically the city facilitating the development. And so then in the future, these landowners could come in with either a site plan, or if we're now proposing to add a community planning permit for a new development. So the city kind of going ahead and leading this as a comprehensive plan would make it more streamlined for landowners to do something in the future. They could propose something different at some point, but we would hope that we are coming up with a plan that would be followed for the most part.
Well, you said they may, or we hope. So what I'm guessing is I'm all in favor of expanding some of the zoning so that more things could happen. Are we then also going to try and restrict what could go in certain areas? Because that's where I wonder whether or not then that, the owner would be in favor of that, or whether or not in the end we spend all the time and we do it, we have our preferred plan and the owner says, to hell with you, this is what I want to build anyways.
Through your worship, so all the landowners would be involved in this process. So they'll be consulted, they'll be engaged, they have the ability to comment and work together. We'll be having some sessions as well for landowners. There's a number of opportunities that we'd be looking at. So within this overall study area, there might be some low-rise residential core neighborhoods that maybe we need to make sure that they are conserved in some way, or there's still some ability to have some flexibility. There would be a number of opportunities for landowners, as we said, about being involved, and as we determine the plan. We're going to get to a stage then when we have a preferred plan and we'll be back in front of council, and then we get into the formal piece. So we would be doing an official plan amendment. And what we're proposing now is we would roll that together with a community planning permit bylaw as well. So then landowners will have the ability to officially comment. So they might say, hey, this is a great process. I've gone from very limited uses that I could do on this property. Now I have this wide range, could be residential, with commercial, with office, institution. Usually in these type of processes, there's not much limiting. I think in this case, we're looking at permissions that are from 1988, 1980, prior to that. That's still good vintage in some cases, but in looking at, this is looking out to 2051. So I think we're trying to modernize and look to the future.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Clark.
And just one last one then. So what I'm just trying to let people know that we can't we're not promising anything in the end because, for example, a lot of people are expecting, there was backlash when the Railroad Museum sold some of their green space and people had this hope and dream that there would be a large park downtown. Us going through this process is not going to necessarily guarantee a large green space downtown. We may hope for it, and we may hope that we can work together with a number of landowners that maybe parcels can be put together or swapped or whatever and create that. But in reality, we only own a small park right now. And we've also need some roads in through that area, so we may have to swap some area land. So I just want people to understand that even though what we're hoping for will be some movement on that property and some development that we can all be proud of, it doesn't guarantee us, even though we're doing the study, doesn't guarantee us controlling what the outcome's going to be in the end.
Yes, through your worship, really appreciate those comments and trying to get that out there. It is a mechanism and a tool that we can have a plan. We can plan and look at park space, transportation, mobility, active transportation connections, cultural heritage, and kind of in and around the museum or other facilities, whether there's new roads that might be needed, what the future might be. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that it would develop tomorrow. That landowners still, as you know, have to have the ability and wherewithal then to move forward with that plan or with some development at some point when the market's available. So it's good points. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookey?
Thanks, Your Worship. I appreciate this, Brandon, because in my mind, and this is just a comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is like we get to play let's make a deal in my mind, where we can say we're going to permit you to do this if you provide this. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd love there to be a downtown park, but I mostly want to make sure there's public access to some trails through there. So is this an example where we might say, okay, we'll allow you to go another 3 stories higher if you provide this? Is that the mechanism that we're talking about? Or is it not, or do we not have that much leverage in this in the end? Thank you very much.
Through your worship, very good point. So 2 quick items. One, by us doing this plan, we are doing proactive planning instead of reacting to an individual landowner's development proposal and doing piecemeal, like a little bit gets developed here, a little bit there. By doing this, we're doing proactive city-led planning. And to your point, that's exactly what looking at the community planning permit, that is like the one and only tool that St. Thomas has to look at this area. And by going through this public process and with council is what's important here. So is having more park space or open space important? Is there important about like the environmental performance of the buildings or affordable housing? Whatever's more important in this area, then yes, by folding in this community planning permit tool, that gives us the ability to look at things like that kind of density bonusing where, okay, in these areas, it might be okay to go 2 or 3 stories if they're providing that extra trail connection to Talbot Street or whatever it might be.
Further questions or comments? So go ahead, Councillor Clark.
The difference in costs between the old proposal where a consultant was going to do all the work is the savings because staff is doing the work. Is that the only difference?
Yeah, through your worship, there were some challenges of looking at a more fulsome, comprehensive process, and what we've been able to look at is that now we have the time for some staff capacity and availability to do some of the planning work. We're also looking at kind of a streamlined process, and by combining things concurrently, we've also had some good discussions through our environmental services about how much we can do in-house and things in terms of our modeling, because we're going to have to look at the infrastructure impacts and roads and sewers about this. So that has helped us come up with a more cost-effective plan.
Further questions or comments? If I can just add, Brandon, when this first came to us, I guess about almost a year ago now, we talked about having a secondary plan and now the community aspect planned. We said we would touch this thing a number of times. And here's another touch where it's now come to council with us looking at it from a city planning point of view. But as you follow the charts in it, there's many other touches where the landowners involved, and because there's many of them, we're going to get many touches from each other back and forth. So, but as you said, it will come back here at least one more time, if not more than that, depending on what zoning is asked for by the different property owners and including us. So I think it's a great move towards community planning of an area that's very important to our community. But this isn't a decision. It's not a final decision. It's a step for how will we make the decision. Am I describing it better?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. This is our process to put the plan in place, and we will be back to council several times as we lead up to the final decision for the preferred plan and then amending the actual planning instruments and documents for the future.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Is that a decision that would be made this year, or is that something for a next council?
Through Your Worship, we will be back to council to get your input on the concepts in the master plan, but it's most likely in the way that the terms of reference are set out that by the time we go through this entire process, it's going to be into the fall and then the winter time for the formal planning documents.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next two items are information pieces. Both of them are Committee of Adjustment notices of decision for minor variance applications. The first one is for 53 Hiawatha Street. Notice of a decision has been received from the Committee of Adjustment to permit an apartment dwelling 3 meters from the side lot line, whereas the minimum required is 4.5 meters, and 0.5 parking spaces per unit, whereas the minimum required is 1.25 parking spaces per unit, for a proposed 3.5-story apartment building containing 49 units at 53 Hiawatha Street. Second item pertains to minor variance for 4 Avon Road. Notice of a decision has been received from the Committee of Adjustment to permit a daycare building 3.55 meters from the front lot line, whereas the minimum front yard depth is 7.5 meters, and 3 meters from the side lot line, whereas the minimum side yard depth is 4 meters for proposed daycare center at 4 Avon Road. The next committee tonight is Community Engagement and Services. First item, a report, city recognition of Earth Day and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Motion that reads that report CMO 4926 relating to city recognition of Earth Day and National Day of Truth and Reconciliation be received for information. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. Councillor, questions or comments? City Manager, did you want to give us a bit of a touch on this?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. This was a report that was generated in response to business arising from the minutes. So this was a request for information from members of council. It speaks to what was done this year for Earth Day and also the planning that's underway for National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So that small working group is working on planning the event for September 30th, transitioning much of the activities over to Westlake Evans Park, and also working to coordinate with many of the students attending from schools again. So this started as a small event and it keeps growing every year, and we're adding more and more programming in concert with our Parks and Recreation and our library departments, and also Southwestern Public Health.
Great. Councillor Clark, question, comment?
Just a comment, I'm glad to see that we're considering moving to Westlake Evans Park. We had larger numbers every year this grows, and to have the number of students as well as some of the elderly on the asphalt in the heat isn't very conducive to health. So the park is a wonderful setting and it's probably underused. It's starting to be used more and more. So I think I know we had some talk about it at special events, and it'd be great to really develop the park as a downtown meeting place, and this would be a good first step.
Great. Councillor Taylor.
The only comment that I've got is it's the unfortunate part. I always love these reports. I'm in favor of all these, but we only had 60 participants in Earth Day of a city of how many? 40,000 people. Granted, was I out picking up garbage? No. Did I have an incentive? Yes, for sure. But somehow I'd like to see us work next year to increasing Earth Day's participation. Maybe we need to have pizza and hamburgers and have a barbecue and some sort of a reward system, maybe a reward to people that are actually out doing something. I think finding volunteers nowadays, I'm a member of the Optimist Club, finding volunteers is pretty darn tough. But I think we can do for our Earth a little bit better job next year, hoping for it anyway. Thank you.
I'm putting down Councillor Taylor as chair of the new, yeah. It always happens in all the groups. I agree. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item tonight deals with Memorial Arena Artifact Preservation Partnership Update and a motion that reads that report PR 1726 relating to the Memorial Arena Artifact Preservation Partnership Update be received for information. And further, that council approve the transfer of the Memorial Arena Artifact Collection to the Elgin County Museum for preservation, exhibition, and long-term stewardship, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the attached deed of gift to facilitate the transfer. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Okay. Questions or comments? Councillor Taylor?
I'm glad to see that these items are being preserved in one way or another. The only unfortunate part is that when these are transferred over to the Elgin County Museum, that I understand that some of them will be, I don't want to use the word destroyed, maybe, I don't know, what's going to happen to the items that we can't keep? We're going to photograph them, we're going to do whatever, but the actual item, is there any way that those items can be returned back to the families or at least try to return them to families if possible? Thank you.
Okay. City Manager, do you have a view on that? This is 2 or 3 times. Oh, sorry. Adrian, all right.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Council, we can certainly suggest that to the Elgin County Museum. They were going to follow their collections policy in regards to any of the, getting disposal of any of those artifacts. And truthfully, it would only be artifacts that are damaged. So most likely it's the plaques or trophies that they have that have been damaged. But certainly I can make sure that we talk to the families if they're available before anything is disposed of.
Super. Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Baldwin Sands. You have a hand up. We wanting to speak on this item?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead. You first and then Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. I remember the day well when this picture was done, and it was such a highlight for members of our community. It was an exciting time for Pee Wee hockey, and it was very pleasing to be present at many of those games. So I highly commend the staff for ensuring that the legacy continues and ensuring that people still have the opportunity to view some of these very important messaging of keeping our sports activity alive and supporting our youth activities in our community collectively and together. So thank you to the staff for moving this forward.
Thank you. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, once again, I agree with that, but it's a great idea. But is there any reason why we couldn't put some of these artifacts in the Joe Thornton Arena, have some area set up where these artifacts could go there? When they go to the museum, I don't know how many people attend the museum, but I know a lot of people go through Joe Thornton, and if there's such a thing as an area that could be built or designated for some of these artifacts, especially hockey, I think it would be great. So just my comment, I don't know if it's possible or not.
I'm putting Councillor Herbert down as the fundraiser for the new display at Thornton. A great idea, but this has been on display at Memorial and nobody's seeing it. And I think that's the purpose of getting it to the Elgin County Museum so more people would, but that's just me. Adrian?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Herbert. For clarification, the artifacts are going to remain at Memorial Arena. It's just the Elgin County Museum is going to take over the ownership to ensure that they remain clean in their display units and that they're properly preserved. And all of the artifacts there are directly linked to the Memorial Arena, so we like to keep them in that area. But certainly if families come forward and they have anything that they would like to see displayed at the Joe, we can work on displays there as well.
Perfect. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next committee tonight is Infrastructure and Civic Operations. First item relates to Fairview and Burwell corridor fencing. Motion that reads that report ES 3326 relating to Fairview and Burwell corridor fencing be received for information. And further, that council support option 1, spot repair and or replacement on a per lot basis, with all such costs invoiced to the property owners. And further, that council authorize a bylaw to be drafted to ensure full cost recovery of works invoiced by the city that remain unpaid. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, Your Worship. A few comments and a few questions here. This is going to be a gong show, an ongoing gong show for us for the next multiple years. For people who are listening tonight, this is about the pressure-treated fences along Fairview across from the Ball Diamond and St. Joe's. This is about the fences up on Burwell and even some in Wrong McNeil, right? And so you've got these fences where it's backlotting onto major roadways, and these pressure-treated fences, of course, eventually start breaking down. Then it comes to who's going to fix it. I'm just saying this. Of course, my colleagues here and staff know, but if you're watching this at home, you might not know what this is about. I drive by down Fairview every day pretty much, and there's some that are now currently falling in completely, and that happens with pressure-treated lumber fences. So this report is all about whose responsibility it is to replace the fence. Ultimately, there's these different odd ownerships and rules that were created 20 years ago, but it's a problem now. So my comment is, like, if we stick an $8,400 bill on somebody's taxes and expecting to pay it in a year, that is an onerous burden. And granted, yes, they might or might not know this is on their deed, but that's an onerous burden for 1 year. So I've got a couple comments and a question. I guess the questions are, do we have the capacity to do this work within the corporation, or are we going to contract this out, is number one. And number two, I'm hoping we can work out a situation where, and if we have to change the rules, we'll change the rules so that people aren't stuck with this on the bill in year one, that perhaps they have 5 years to pay this off. I just think that an $8,400 bill, I know fences, this happens all the time in neighborhoods between, people, but ultimately they'd be splitting with their neighbor perhaps. But I guess those are my two questions for now. And I appreciate this report from staff. Like I said, this is a big problem. And my last thing I'll say is, this is why I hope that we get away from allowing backlotting onto roads, because who's eventually stuck with the hassle in the end? It's going to be us. And now it's back to roost. So if the staff could answer those couple of questions about capacity within staff and payment plans, thank you.
Okay. I saw a little bit rock, paper, scissors as to who's going to speak on it. So who won?
Through your worship to Councillor Wookey. Sorry, what was the first part of your question?
Just do we have the capacity on within the corporation staff to do these spot fixes, or are we contracting this out? Would be the first one. And I mean, when you say spot fixes, I appreciate it. There's a lot of spots already, and there's going to be a lot more over the next few years. Thank you.
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Wookey, it would be contracted out. We don't have on-site staff to do that work.
And then about the payment plan, say, I don't know if there's a question for the treasurer, but even if it's not allowed in the bylaws, I'd like to make it so that this is palatable for people. Because again, an $8,400 bill in 1 year is like, you'd choke on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll defer to Adam on that one.
Oh.
Thank you. Through your worship, we could add a repayment terms provision into the bylaw for council's review. Certainly a 5-year would be possible if that's council's preference.
Okay. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. If I recall, 6 or 7 years ago, we had this big discussion about when you went into a subdivision, they had this big cement thing identifying the subdivision.
Yep.
I can't remember what we decided because some were falling down, the bricks were falling down. To me, the issue would be whose property is it on? According to the, I think we decided, and I can't remember for sure, but the builder that incorporated on your property, you were responsible for it because it's on your property. So I'm not sure if this is the same situation when I look at the fence. Is the fence on the ownership of those people or is the fence on the city side? Because if the fence is on the city side, shouldn't the city be responsible for the fence? If the fence is on the property side, if I buy a house, that fence comes to my house and it's my responsibility. So I'm not sure where we are when I look at this long fence. I know the fence was put up for noise and keep people from looking in your backyards, but so I'm not sure what happened years ago when we decided about who was responsible for the bricks on these that identify a subdivision, and same situation here. I mean, I don't know, maybe who has to decide it has to be fixed too? That's another question. I might be happy with the way the fence looks, so it's cracking in spots or maybe breaking down. I don't want to spend the extra money to fix it. Am I required to fix it by a city? I don't know, just some questions I'm throwing out there. Maybe I don't even have a question,
Okay.
but I'm just thinking out loud.
You threw a few out there. Let's see who gets to answer them.
Your worship, to Councillor Herbert, this bylaw would account for all structures. So you're talking about the brick masonry gateway entrances, I believe, is what you're talking about. From the past, this bylaw would cover that.
So what was the bylaw? Does anybody have that? If you don't have your fingertips, you can tell me later, but I'm just curious what the bylaw said.
Through council or through the mayor to council, the draft bylaw is attached to the agenda. It's called a structures cost recovery bylaw. It covers all structures that are along the property line between the city and a private property owner, that where they are identified as being the responsible party through the subdivision agreement, provides the city the ability to do the inspection and to then issue a notice of required works. Should the property owner fail to comply with the notice to complete the required works, a subsequent notice would be provided, that then the city would be authorized to do so and place the costs onto the property taxes of that affected property. The important piece here is at the end of the day, regardless of whether it's a city-owned structure or a private property-owned structure, the private property owner is financially responsible. So it is in their best interest to continue to keep the structures in a state of good repair in order to mitigate the city having to come in. I think one of your questions, Councillor Herbert, was who makes that determination? Our property standards officer is familiar with fences as they do with other private property issues. And so they would be the officer that would go out and take a look to deem whether the fence is plumb, if it's in need of repair. And as Councillor Wookey identified, the cost is significant because there are masonry concrete pieces attached to it. So sometimes you may need to repair those pieces as well, which adds to the cost overall. But the idea would be that the time for the property owner to comply would be based on the extent of the repair that's required. So it's not, you need to do this in 2 days. We'll give you based on the scope of work that's required. But if it's a full replacement, like the city has to provide that notice, and then in 20 days, we are able to act.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through the worship. So just so I'm clear in my mind, if I want to fix the fence, do I have to paint it? Even though do I have to paint it the same color as the brown fence? What if I wanted to paint it a dark black or something? Could I do that if I do it on my own, or do I have to get permission?
Through the mayor to Councillor Herbert, any maintenance that the homeowner wants to provide to their structures or fence is a good idea in order to keep it in a state of a good repair. So staining it to preserve the pressure treat is a good idea. Any works that they can do in order to keep it in a state of good repair is a good idea.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thanks. going forward basis, because we have a number of different subdivision agreements. Will we have a standardized one that we're trying to look forward in the future so that, if it's backlotted, this is what the clauses will be and it won't change from one subdivision to the next? Or is it site specific depending on the subdivision as they're developed?
Through the mayor, it's the short straw on this one.
Yeah.
So on our 2027 work plan is to update our design standards and reviewing our subdivision agreement to make sure that we don't get into these types of situations moving forward. So in 20 years, we learn from our not mistakes, but we learn from opportunities here to improve. And so that's what we'll be looking to do as we go forward.
Mr. Pompili?
And through your worship, just to add to that as well, one thing that we're also looking at doing, and we'll likely be doing this through our official plan review, and some of the direction that staff gave us, that council gave us to staff, to look at some of our policy approaches when it comes to reviewing development applications, is we're looking for ways to have opportunities that when proposals come in through consultation, that we work with developers to avoid the need for a noise wall. So to look at alternatives to rear lotting single-family homes onto arterials or collector roads that then require noise walls. So looking at options like maybe a different type of land use that doesn't require a noise wall, or maybe a different maybe introducing window streets or things like that, that then we can avoid having to get into these agreements and arrangements going forward.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Your worship, the next item tonight relates to parking control on Bonnie Place. A motion that reads that report ES 3626 relating to parking control on Bonnie Place be received for information, and further that council direct a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw number 4589. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to thank the staff for taking the opportunity of bringing back this report. As you know, I've been contacted by a couple of people in regards to the parking problems that they're having. Just to note that during the time of the survey, not a single employee from the business parked on the street. And as soon as the survey was done, they were all back. So I guess a scare tactic there for a while worked, and it was the residents were very happy to have a clear parking area for a little while, as it was quiet as well, because they don't hear the cars running off for their air conditioning at nighttime now. But I like option number, what is it? Is it option number 2. So I do like option number 2. And as it's indicated in the report, it seems to be the most favorable. And just a note on the island there where you have the 2 arrows with no parking there, I certainly appreciate that. And I'm sure Chief Gregory does as well, because they've had to have their fire truck down there a couple of weeks ago, and the truck had to maneuver back and forth twice in order to get around there because people were parked on the bend there. So I'm sure he's going to appreciate that change there as well. And then I just have one question. I'm just wondering, do we have a bylaw for parking looping? So that meaning that if they're parked at one spot on Bonnie Place for 5 hours, and then they move around to go back and around to park another 5 hours on the other side of Bonnie Place, if they still get ticketed for parking more than 5 hours at any time. And I was just wondering if that is in residential or is just in the downtown area that is taking place. Thank you.
Mr. Delivic, do you want to handle the 5-hour parking and moving your car piece?
Yeah, certainly through the mayor. And I believe Matt Vreens, our manager of transportation, is online as well.
Oh, yes. I forgot he was.
He might be able to chime in if I make a mistake here.
Okay.
So to answer your question, Councillor Gibson, if somebody moves their car before the 5-hour limit and parks somewhere else on the same street, there's not much we can do in terms of enforcement for that.
Go ahead, Councillor Gibson.
So could we amend the bylaw so that we can have that option there for parking? Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Gibson, you're looking to amend the bylaw to reduce the length of hours that someone can park on street or increase the hours. Either option, council is able to request that change. But it comes down to the ability to enforce. So typically in the past, you would chalk line a tire and where the valve stem is, so you know exactly if the car has moved or not. And so it has to be the same officer that does the chalk lining in order to be able to issue the ticket. So then we run into the shift hours as being an issue.
Councillor Kohler on that one?
Thanks, Your Worship. I know we've had discussion about this before, but I thought the interpretation was 5 hours on street parking and it didn't matter where it was on the street. So I don't know if Matt maybe can chime into that, but if it's not, then it needs to be changed, because if somebody's going out and moving 6 inches and still taking up, it's not per parking spot, it's on street parking. So if the person's 5 hours and he drives away, comes back and he's still there, it's 5 hours on street parking. That's the way I always understood it. And maybe if it's not that way, then we need to amend it so it's back that way.
Matt, can you hear, or do you want me to go to Matt? Okay. Matt, if you can hear us, please come on and share all your wisdom about 5 hour parking, please.
Through your worship to Councillor Kohler. So right now it is 5 hours at a time. If you do move your car, then the clock would restart. It's going out because we go out and chalk the car tires. So once that chalk mark is gone or moved a little bit, the time would restart. The reason that is like if we're talking about looping here, I'm not familiar with another area that uses that right now other than in parking lots. Because we can say someone might run home in the morning, let's say, and need to grab something quickly in their house. They're only there for maybe 10 minutes when we go by the first time. They might leave for most of the rest of the day, but then come back again later and park there again. We have no way of tracking how long this vehicle is actually parked there. They could be parked there over the span of 5 hours, but they could have been there 10 minutes the first time, half hour the second. It's very difficult in that sense. So most areas have, if the car has been moved, then the time restarts.
Further questions or comments on that? I get what you're saying, Matt. Much of this is reported by complaint. There's this car parking out in front of my house all day long, every day. Then someone could easily go do it. But you're suggesting that we still have to see a 5 hour window in order to be able to ticket someone for the over the 5 hour parking. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, we would go out there and chalk a car and then say we would come back 5 hours later. And if that car hasn't moved, and then yes, we would issue the ticket at that point.
Okay. Further, Councillor Gibson, then Councillor Taylor.
Matt, is there, there's been, some of the residents have noticed some of the owners of the vehicles, they're going out and they're washing off their chalk mark. Is there another alternative way that you can also override that problem? Can you not use it through using their license plate number or something rather than relying on a chalk line? Because I could believe, I thought this guy was out there polishing up the chrome, and no, apparently he was washing off the chalk line.
Your input, Matt?
Councillor Gibson, that is sometimes a challenge. So sometimes we can look at the tires where we chalk them. There is newer software that can be put in if we were looking to a new system that do virtual chalk lines too. And then there is another method we can look at as well. I don't know how much methods we want to share tonight for everyone, but there is something else we can look at doing.
All right. Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Kohler.
My question is going to be in regards to which option are we actually talking about? Because I thought, now that I see the recommendations, the two recommendations, that we create a bylaw prepared for its consideration, but it's not mentioning, is it option one or is it option two? And I'm sort of in the favor of option 2, where there's no parking on the side where there's a sidewalk. Because later on tonight, the next item up is going to be talking about the no parking in Harvest Court. And the reason for most of the changes there is because we're not allowing parking on the side where there's a sidewalk. So I know that Councillor Gibson just mentioned that being in favor of option 2, but I am actually more in favor of option 1, but I don't see in the motion which one we're actually voting on tonight.
Mr. Dealerbeck, can you help us which one we're voting on?
Yes, absolutely. Further in the report, Councillor Taylor, you'll find the conclusion that identifies that option 2 is being recommended as it aligns with the majority of the respondents to the survey. So that would be the amendment to the traffic bylaw that would come forward, would be to implement option 2, because that was what was favored by those living on the street.
Okay. Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't know if this would go under unfinished business or not, but I think that we need to take a look at the wording of the bylaw, because just what Matt described is just useless if people are able to go out and wipe the chalk off. My understanding, it's 5 hours on-street parking, and that's what it should be. At the end of the day, people run in and out all the time, but the city streets aren't meant to be parking lots, and that's what the driveways are for. But there's this whole instance, if that's the way the bylaw is set up, it's just set up to be frustrating the people that are calling and complaining because things like this are happening. Because at the end of the day, most people do come in and out, but don't leave their vehicle there over an 8-hour period of work time or whatever, and wiping it off, especially when they got other areas to park. So I'd like in the future us to look at that bylaw, make it easier for our enforcement people, and also easier and more compatible for our neighborhoods to deal with these situations.
Okay, Councillor Gibson.
I'd just like to say thanks to Councillor Kohler for his remarks on that. I totally agree. Matt, I was wondering if maybe we can have you come back with a report as to some of the changes or the new ideas that we can use the virtual chalking. See if there's just to see if it would be affordable for us to do, and make your work much easier in other areas of the city, because I'm sure this street is not the only street that's having this issue. I live on Miller Street, and yeah, my little street looks like a parking lot for a dealership, and everyone's driveways are empty, but I choose not to call because I live there. But I was just wondering if we could get some sort of a report back on some of the costs for some new initiatives for our parking bylaws. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few points based on the discussion. It's probably worthwhile to have council formally amend the motion in front of them to identify a few items, recommending insertion of a new paragraph 2 that would have council support option 2 in the report ES 3626 to make it clear what's being discussed. Further, including a paragraph 4 that would direct staff to investigate and report back as part of the amendments to the traffic bylaw regarding the definition and application of 5-hour parking, which would address Councillor Kohler, and further alternative enforcement or parking enforcement measures, which would then address Councillor Gibson. So given the nature of the discussion, I believe that procedurally that's the best way forward. If the members are interested in something like that, then I would need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor, and then I can craft a full motion. I see Kohler moving, Councillor Gibson seconding.
Okay. We'll give you a second to do that, and I'll ask, is there any other further comment to what the clerk has just suggested? Any other further comments or questions? Then go ahead.
Your Worship, I'm going to do this verbally, and hopefully my deputy city clerk at the back of the room can capture this on the video. Got a thumbs up, so I think we're good to go. The revised motion, or the amended motion rather, would read that report ES 3626 relating to parking control on Bonnie Street be received for information, and that council support option 2 as identified in report ES 3626, and that council direct a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw 4589 with consideration to the definition and applicability of 5-hour parking, and further that staff be directed to investigate and report back on alternative parking enforcement measures. This has been moved by Councillor Gibson and seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Then I'll ask, is there any further input, questions, or comments? Seeing none, then all in favor. Are there any opposed? All right. Noted. That is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item is under new business, similar item, parking control on Harvest Court. Motion that reads that report ES 3426 relating to parking control on Harvest Court be received for information, and further that council direct a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw 4589. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson first.
So I do not have a license, but under my understanding, when it comes to parking on curves, does it not say you should not be parking on a curve? Is it like is there like a provincial traffic law on that? I mean, even on a highway, they tell you not to park on a curve. And I'm just wondering, does it not come into play into our municipal streets? Because I mean, we shouldn't be having to do this. Like, it should be just a standard, I hate to say it, common sense. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've spent some time down on this street parking legally.
Okay,
But,
I was gonna ask, but you volunteered. That's good.
and I agree with what's happening here, but the number of cars in this area during the school going in and school coming out would be bothersome to me if I was a resident here. I agree with the no parking on the west side, the way it's outlined. And again, in our motion, it doesn't actually say that we're approving option number 1. So I want to make sure that that is happening. But when there's no parking on the markings where it's shown in red, there's actually no other place to park on this street. And I'm in favor of that. I have no trouble with that because the distance between driveways is not enough to park a vehicle. On any of those 13, I counted about 13 of those spaces between driveways, you can't park there at all. So this is going to help the neighborhood and I like it a lot. Thank you.
Perfect. Further questions or comments? Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would suggest that, given the nature of the motion and the options in the report, that council once more amend this motion to specifically identify the option. Kevin, this is option 1 this time? Yeah. So I would recommend to council that there be an amending motion to insert a new paragraph 2 that would read that, and further that council support option 1 as identified in report ES 3426. The remainder of the motion would remain the same. I would need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Further questions or comments on the amended motion? Councillor Taylor.
Just a note, I'm not sure how Harvest Court got away with no parking signs. If you look at Majestic Court, the next street to the west, it has no parking signs, but for some reason it got missed on this street. I don't know why, but I would like to make sure that our bylaw enforcement folks patrol this area once the signs go up, just to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Okay. That looks like direction to staff, so okay. Further questions or comments? Seeing that, sorry, Councillor Kohler.
Just a question on how long, once this is passed, how long we think it would take for the signs to be installed?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Kohler, it should be, I would imagine, installed in the next 2 weeks.
Super. So before the school year comes back, and that seems to be the issue here. Perfect. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Final committee tonight, Corporate Governance and Administration. First item deals with Downtown Development Board Rail Coach expenses. A motion that reads that report TR 1326 relating to Downtown Development Board Rail Coach expenses. And further, that council approve the Downtown Development Board proceeding with the Rail Coach window restoration project in the amount of $15,730 plus applicable taxes, and authorize the board to fund the project through either a repayment arrangement extending into 2027 or through the use of available reserve funds. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
Next three items deal with the 2026 municipal election. First is 2026 municipal election general information. A motion that reads that report CC 1026 relating to the 2026 municipal election general information be received for information. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is 2026 municipal election compliance audit committee, and a motion that reads that report CC 1226 relating to the 2026 municipal election compliance audit committee be received for information. And further, that council authorize the preparation of a bylaw establishing the 2026 municipal election compliance audit committee in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act 1996 as amended. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item is 2026 municipal election delegation of authority restricted acts period. A motion that reads that report CC 1126 relating to the 2026 municipal election delegation of authority restricted acts period be received for information. And further, that council authorize the preparation of a bylaw to delegate financial and hiring dismissal authority to the city manager in the event of a restricted acts period during the 2026 municipal election. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Being none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next report deals with application to the Development Charges Reduction Fund. A motion that reads that report CMO 5026 relating to the application to the Development Charges Reduction Fund be received for information. And further, that administration submit an application to the Development Charges Reduction Fund for the Dalewood Water Reclamation Plant construction project. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. For the benefit of the public, if we can just get the treasurer to just briefly explain what's going on here, I'm sure he'll be entertaining and comprehensive.
Well, the comprehensive part for sure, but.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the province has rolled out a program that provides financial assistance to municipalities who wish to waive some development charge collections, so reduce their development charge rates on residential properties. What we've gone ahead and done is calculate what the break-even point would be for the city to participate in the program. And so our intention and our recommendation to council is for staff to submit an application for approximately $25 million in exchange for the city reducing its development charges on residential properties by 30% for 3 years. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kohler?
I think the treasurer just answered that. So I was going to ask if we did this because development charges, number one, we're already the lowest around. So it's not going to be the big impact that it's going to have in other municipalities, but it does allow us to fund growth. And I think the treasurer said that this amount will offset and pretty much break even over the 33 years. So that's what I want to make sure is because, you know, I don't want to be doing something that's going to increase our asset management deficit and doing that because it's an important part of growth, paying for growth. And I think a lot of times, and hopefully there's going to be some pushback on when development charges are reduced, that it does get transferred down to reducing the cost of the home. But again, in St. Thomas, it's not going to have the impact that it is in other areas because we're nowhere near charging what other areas are. But as long as it's not going to create a problem in the future, that's what I wanted to make sure. So thank you for that.
Great. And you're right, Councillor Kohler, we've been in the couple of weeks since this announcement, we've been recognized at just about every speech the minister has done. And I was at an event in London where someone got up and asked us a question about how did we keep our development. I mean, Mayor Morgan was with me from London and they were asking me, how did we keep them so low when other cities around are having more difficulty? And so it's great that we're being well recognized, but I agree with the treasurer and you that we can't be punished because we've been doing this well for years. And so the opening up of a fund that we can actually tap into by playing this and checking the amounts to make sure it works is really quite beneficial. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item deals with community grant requests, intake number 3. Motion that reads that report TR 1426 relating to community grant requests, intake 3 be received for information. And further, that council approve a waiver of pavilion rental fees in Pinafore Park in the amount of $132.20 for the St. Thomas Kinsman Club Easter egg hunt. And further, that council approve a waiver of Pinafore Park rental fees in the amount of $5,644.50 for the Railway City Music and Arts Festival. And further, that council approve a waiver of Pinafore Park bandshell rental fees in the amount of $336 for Elgin County Pride's Pride Family Day event. And further, that all other requests contained within intake number 3 of the city's 2026 Community Grants Program be declined. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Wookey.
Thank you, Your Worship. These are all great events, and I hope to be able to support most, if not all of them. But we do have a policy that shows $3,500 is the maximum amount of money that we would give in a grant. And we did this last year as well. We exceeded the $3,500 grant, and I think at the time we were supposed to look at how do we not do that again. But again, here we are a year later, we are exceeding our own policy. So why do we have a policy if we're continually going to exceed it? That's my question.
I agree. Mr. Treasurer, would you like to help us with our policy?
Certainly. So the policy has some discretion baked into it. Like council is ultimately approving these on a case-by-case basis. So it's going to require some case-by-case judgment as a result of how the policy works. In this instance, we did recommend that the above the $3,500 maximum contained within the policy be an approval be above that, simply because council made a similar decision prior year. So we were just following kind of that logic that council exercised during last year's application.
Councillor Wookey, did I have you next?
Thanks, Your Worship. I simply wanted to thank the treasurer for the report in a sense of it explained, I think, very well why things were being declined. And I appreciate that comprehensive and logical explanation for why that's happening. So I just want to thank the treasurer for that.
Thank you. Councillor Rymel, you have your hand up?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you faintly.
Faintly? Let me see if I can turn the volume
I want
up.
you to use your outside voice.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
A little better.
A little better? Just a little better? How about that?
Okay, let's
Can you
try
hear
your
me?
question and see if we can all hear.
Okay, I just want to say I appreciate the information, but I do think we should go ahead with the AED for St. Hilda St. Luke's Church. They have a lot of people that participate there in the program. I actually was part of a initiative maybe over 10 years ago where we got AED started in the schools. And I appreciate that the churches, they do have difficulty raising funds, but I really would like to see the 2,500 for the AED for the church. And I agree with Councillor Taylor that if we have a policy that's 3,500, then that's what we should have. And also to be firm, like when people are asking for, like the arts festival was asking for $15,000. We should stick to the maximum that we'd already put in. Anyway, thank you.
So if I heard all of it, you first of all agree with Councillor Taylor on the 3,500 limit being at least more looked at with a sharper eye, and you wanted to add in the St. Luke's, St. Hilda's, St. Luke's request, and just as it being a good idea?
Yes, I think, you know, for the community, it's really important to have these safety measures, and I commend them for bringing it forward.
Okay. Mr. Treasurer, is there, on the St. Luke's and St. Hilda's, was there something in our policy that made it not being included?
Our rationale in the report was that if we approve this one, we didn't know how we could reject future requests of similar organizations. And so we didn't know, we just thought it would be a bad precedent to set.
Okay. All right. I had Councillor Clark, then Councillor Herbert. Councillor Kohler.
Thanks. Well, I appreciate Councillor Reimel's thoughts on it. I agree with the city treasurer. We'll be inundated. Every school, every community center type building, you know, every church is going to ask for the same thing. And there are some foundations and out there, third parties that have been doing fundraising for these. And maybe we could help the church and direct them to one of those organizations that that is their goal and their commitment to make sure that more of these are provided to communities.
Okay. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. If you recall, last year, I was against, was probably the first year that somebody wanted 9 or 10,000. I think we approved it. I think of all the discussions we've had over the years, we come up with the $3,500 fee. And anything after that, we weren't going to approve it. So in curiosity for, I guess this would be for Adam, how did you come up with 5,644 for Railway City when they wanted 15,600? How do you make that decision?
The amount that we're requesting be approved is the fee waiver. It's only the component of the application that relates to the waiver of fees at St. Thomas facilities. The rest are cash grants, which we fully declined.
Councillor Kohler, then Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just going to suggest the same thing that Councillor Clark did with the defibrillator, because there are many groups out there. But also on this, and I do support the rationale behind the larger amount, especially through the fee waiver. It's a significant event, and I think we need to be part of it. And also the same with the Chamber District event, the Fun Pass. I know it shouldn't be included in here. It certainly doesn't fit with that, but I still think that the city should be a partner, and whether it's through EDC with the tourism or not, but I would like to see us, if it's not already in one of the budgets, for us to participate through the advertising program for that, because I think it's something special for the city, and we should be part of that. So hopefully, whether it's through the mayor's advertising or the city manager's advertising budget, or if we can refer it to EDC, but I think we definitely should be partnering in that.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I think if we remember our conversation last year at this time, our strategic plan calls for the development of major cultural events. And we've kind of sloughed it up, not sloughed it off, but we've allowed third parties to kind of do the work for us. EDC has planned some, Downtown Development Board has planned some, and in this case, the good work of the music festival has provided us with another one of those opportunities. So for really no cost, because it's us waiving the fees, we have a huge amount of volunteers in the community that are providing a worthwhile civic event for all the citizens to enjoy. So I see the logic in why we did it last year, and I hope we approve the situation again this year.
Great. Further questions or comments? If I can point out, we're in year 8 of a project I took on when I first became mayor of eliminating us handing out funds. I would happily was the chair of the United Way for a number of years and said that there's lots of organizations that do a great job of handing out funds. But in all the doors I knocked on, I never had one citizen of St. Thomas say, please give my money to other people. And so I'll continue to follow that. I've softened a bit on the waiving of fees that otherwise would have been collected. It seems a little bit better from a city helping groups. And so to meet the point that Councillor Clark just said, I might even bend on that one a little, but I still would like to see us get out of the grant business, but I won't get a chance to discuss it one more time after this. I don't think so. Mr. Clerk, this report, if we vote on the report we have here, does exactly what the treasurer's asked us to do. If we did that, then should we revisit any individual other requests that other councillors have talked about here?
So through your worship, the best way to do this would be similar to the way that we handled the parking control reports, and it'd be an amended motion essentially. If there is another councillor that wants to include an additional request, like for the St. Thomas Chamber, for instance, or for St. Hilda's St. Luke's, which is also identified, or if there's a councillor out there that wants to move a motion to reduce the waiver for the Railway City Music and Arts Festival to $3,500, which was also something that was discussed, it has to be through an amended motion. So I would need a councillor to bring an amendment or a proposed amendment to the floor as a mover, and it would have to be a seconder to get on the floor with discussion.
And are you suggesting that it's all of the above or individually above and beyond the report that's been given to us?
It can be done as an omnibus depending on who wants to bring that forward. It can also be done individually. So if a councillor, for instance, wants to amend only the waiver for the Railway City Music Festival and not the additional 2 approvals, then they would put that on the floor, and that would have to be dealt with before any other amending motion.
Okay. Councillor Taylor, suggestion?
I'd like to put that on the floor then, please.
Which one? Like an omnibus of everything else we talked about?
No, it's splitting them in. We were chastised in the media for wasting city's money on a couple of other items recently. I just want to make sure that the city residents know that we're spending our money according to policy. So I would like to see them voted on separately and that the $3,500 be considered, I guess.
Okay. That was moved by Councillor Taylor. Does he have a seconder? Okay, next item. I'm not seeing any more conversation, so why don't we vote on the report then? All those in favor? Are there any opposed to the report? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. That concludes the business of the Committee of the Whole. Council will now reconvene into regular session. Motion that reads that the recommendations, directions, and actions of Council and the Committee of the Whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 2 items tonight under reports of committees. They are both heritage alteration permits. The first one is for 10 Manitoba Street. A motion that reads that report MHC 0826 relating to the heritage alteration permit 10 Manitoba Street be received for information, and further that council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 10 Manitoba Street relating to application HAP 1026. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Second heritage alteration permit addresses property 519 Talbot Street. Motion that reads that report MHC 0926 relating to the heritage alteration permit 519 Talbot Street be received for information, and further that council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 519 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 1126, subject to exterior cladding colors being chosen that are sympathetic to the Heritage Conservation District guidelines. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a few items under communications. First item is Crime Stoppers Awareness Month, September 2026, proclamation and flag raising. A request has been received from Donna Sheridan, St. Thomas Elgin Crime Stoppers, that council proclaim September 2026 as Crime Stoppers Awareness Month in the city of St. Thomas, and that the Crime Stoppers flag be flown at City Hall on September the 8th, 2026. A motion that reads that the council of the city of St. Thomas proclaims September 2026 as Crime Stoppers Awareness Month in the city of St. Thomas, and further that the Crime Stoppers flag be flown at City Hall on September 8th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
The next item is a resolution circulated to the city from Prince Edward County. A letter has been received from Catalina Blumenberg, Clerk, Prince Edward County, regarding provincial funding for public health units. The second item is another resolution received from the town of Halton Hills. A copy of a letter addressed to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, has been received from Melissa Lahr, Deputy Clerk, Legislation, Town of Halton Hills, regarding updates to the Invasive Species Act.
Councillor Taylor?
This topic has been in the news quite a bit lately, and I would like to support this motion, please.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? The motion would read that the Council of the City of St. Thomas support the resolution received from Melissa Lahr, Deputy Clerk, Town of Halton Hills, regarding modernizing Ontario's invasive plants rules to protect taxpayers, municipal lands, agriculture, natural heritage, and local gardens, and further that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Town of Halton Hills, MPP Rob Flack, and the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. Seconder.
Councillor Baldwin Sands has her hand up.
Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments on accepting the forwarding of this letter? I'll state my normal. We don't tell other levels of government what to do, and so I'll be voting against it. Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have an expert in our meeting tonight. I'm just wondering if maybe we can get thoughts from Parks and Rec Parks on this.
Adrian?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to council. I am just briefing myself on this, my apologies, but we do have staff on in the Parks Department that regularly maintain and monitor for invasive species throughout the city. Where it's noted that there could be invasive species that need to be dealt with on private property, we try to reach the homeowners in order to help them with the eradication of certain plants. And we're actively working with the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority when there's funding available to eradicate invasive species from our parklands. Additionally, we like to make sure that we are providing pertinent information on naturalizing spaces and providing spaces for native plants. So I'm definitely in support of this as well. Thank you.
So we're suggesting the current invasive species laws are not adequate?
I believe that there's always room for improvement when that comes up.
Councillor Taylor?
Sorry to keep on this, but I believe what this is actually asking is that garden centers, nurseries, and landscape suppliers, seed distributors, online retailers, landscapers, and residents all can sell invasive species. I think that's what this is really talking about. Yes, we do a great job in the city here of managing invasive species, but you can go to a nursery and buy an invasive species, which is like a English ivy, I believe was the one that was talked about. So I believe that's what this is all about, is trying to limit the sale of those items. Thank you.
Further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is defeated.
Thank you, Your Worship. Are there any items for unfinished business or new business this evening?
Oh, I got hands everywhere. Kohler? Sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship, for new business. I know I mentioned this in the other report, but I thought it'd be more appropriate to just move a motion in new business that the city purchase advertising in the Summer Fun Fest passport for 2026. I think it's important that we be part of that. I know I've seen some noddings of the head from the city manager and the mayor, but I just want to make sure that through resolution, and then the discretion of what fund can be left up to the city manager and treasurer, whose advertising budget it comes to. But I think we should be part of that. The chamber's been very supportive of the city and many of our events in the past. And just for example, the city birthday that was just up there at the Joe Thornton Center, I think the entire chamber staff was up there, plus board members supporting that. And I think this is an event that they're throwing here. The passport is a huge benefit for the city, and in advertising, I think it's deems prudence for us to be part of that. So I'd like to put that motion on the floor.
Is there a seconder? Gibson or Clark? Sorry, go ahead. Mr.
Thank you,
Clark.
Worship. I just want to clarify the motion just for the record. Councillor Kohler, would it be fair to say that the motion would be that the city purchase advertising in the Summer Fun Pass and that discretion be given to the city manager to establish the expense account for this purchase?
Yes, that's correct.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? That carried. Councillor Werke, you're up.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to let my colleagues know that I will not be here for the July meeting. I'm going to be heading out west. I'll be someplace in the middle of the Prairies International Park with, I'm going to guess you'll be seeing in the background a moose or something if I was online. But so I will regrettably be missing that. As well, sadly missing Nostalgia Nights car show and the seniors picnic, but we've got a wedding out west and some traveling to do. So just want to make sure people know.
Mr. Wilkie, I know you're going to Saskatoon, but make sure you wear that blue tie. Go Bombers.
Okay, I for one would love to see a moose, so, whatever you can do. Other new business, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Unfortunately, I failed to mention this last week that our new animal shelter opened. And you were there giving comments. I believe Councillor Kohler and Clark and myself were in attendance. But it's quite the building. I mean, you really need to go take a look at it.
Right.
It's like night and day. And thanks to Adrian for getting it all together for us. So anyway, just wanted to mention for the public, it's up and running. I believe it's up and running now, correct?
That's a good question because I didn't know the answer to that. Go ahead.
Through your worship, it should be by the end of the week. Hopefully for occupancy, there's just one box to get checked off in terms of closing off the final permit, but we're pretty much there.
Oh, so wait, it's a permit delay? Sorry, had to get that in. Further new business, Councillor Taylor. Then I'm coming to you, Councillor Gibson.
I'm happy to announce that the 27th annual Optimus Father's Day car show is this Sunday. Almost said Santa Claus.
Santa Claus Parade.
So used to saying that.
Yeah.
Optimus Father's Day car show is this Sunday, June the 21st from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. This being the first Optimus, but thanks to the Lions Club have run this program for the last 26 years at Pinafore Park. And as long as the weather is good, there's going to be lots of cars. The Bombshell Beauties are going to be there, lots of food trucks and crafters and vendors, and it'll be a great fun day. So everybody can come and see us.
We always decorate that park really well with some very old cars, so that's a fantastic thing. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to let everyone know that myself, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Herbert, we were out at the Horton Market and we were doing Lemonade Day. And for those who are not aware of, Lemonade Day is where we have lemonade and you do a kind donation. And the monies goes to families and children who are needing essential services and resources. So it meets their needs. It also helps out on some of their camp days. So they do, if you go to their website, there's a QR there. If you wish to donate, they're still accepting donations. So again, it was a great day. We had a lot of fun, and I would just say next year, let's try and do it again. from council's point. Thank you very much.
If I can just throw in that that's another thing that the Doug Terry Group has been really huge on pushing with the Family and Children's Services. So thank some of our other corporate sponsors too.
But we have to remember the lemonade came from Wendy's. So it was tasty lemonade. Anybody wants a good lemonade? It's really good, Joe. I was amazed.
I was
Thank
just
you.
being humble there for a moment, but thank you. Further new business. Councillor Clark.
Just this weekend at the Knights of Columbus, Friday is a concert as well as a fish fry, and Saturday is Elton John tribute band, and all the proceeds go to our local food bank.
Oh, is there still tickets available for the fish fry? Perfect. Excellent. Further new business. Seeing none.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have no public notices this evening and no notices of motion. We'll be entering into a closed session. Motion that reads that this meeting be closed to deal with two matters of a proposed or pending disposition of land, Woodworth Sanitary Pumping Station, Hydro One Transmission Line 2, and a matter of a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, intermunicipal servicing at 6:56 p.m. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
As I say before, I normally call the vote. We're going to go into closed session now. That will end the open part of this open part of the meeting. When we return from closed session, we will then move anything that passes during closed session and adjourn for the day, or pass our bylaws and then adjourn for the day. So for those of you that have been joining us at home and the large crowd in the gallery tonight, thank you for coming and joining us, and we'll be going into closed session as soon as I ask all those in favor. Are there any opposed? We are in closed session. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, to rise.
Thank you, Your Worship. Motion that reads that council now rise from closed session at 7:18 p.m. Further, that city representatives proceed as directed on all three closed session items. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We are now in open session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next item are the bylaws. Motion on the floor that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
We have motion on the floor moved by Councillor Taylor and seconded by Councillor Wookie that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council in the committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, first bylaw, please.
Thank you. The first bylaw tonight is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held on the 15th day of June, 2026.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw tonight is a bylaw to amend bylaw 130, 2017 to prohibit and regulate the destruction or injury of trees on municipally owned lands and other trees along highways within the City of St. Thomas Municipal Tree Bylaw amendments.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw tonight is a bylaw to amend bylaw 101, 2021 to prohibit and regulate the destruction or injury of trees on private property within the City of St. Thomas, private property tree bylaw amendments.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw tonight is a bylaw to deem part of registered plan number 93, former township of Yarmouth, to not be a registered plan of subdivision. This applies to lot 28 and part of lot 29 being 34 Warehouse Street, Brent Rodson, file number 50226.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw tonight is a bylaw to amend bylaw 5088, being the zoning bylaw for the City of St. Thomas to permit the creation of 8 lots for semi-detached dwellings, 7 lots for townhouse dwellings, and an apartment block consisting of 75 units for a total of 123 residential units, blocks 103 and 104 on Plan 11M 232 Harvest Square, Doug Terry Limited.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw tonight is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the corporation of the city of St. Thomas and the Canadian Union of Public Employees and its local 841.4 part-time unit crossing guard collective agreement, January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next bylaw, please.
Seventh bylaw tonight is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the corporation of the city of St. Thomas and Hydro One Networks Incorporated, Hydro One Transmission Line 2.
Question or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. I believe the last bylaw.
The eighth and final bylaw tonight, a bylaw to establish the 2026 Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act 1996 as amended.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Your worship, I rise to report the successful passing of 8 bylaws.
Worship, we have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Wookie, that the report of council in the committee of the whole on the bylaws be received and adopted, the same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, your worship. Final item tonight is adjournment. Motion that we do now adjourn at 7:23 p.m. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on adjournment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.